So, but only a mom would do that. And I think, to me, as I read about her and her encouragement to John and his ministry, I can't help but admire her and see her as such an important role in the early church there in Antioch. So what did the oppression look like? Looks like the oppression that's going to take place really comes in three different ways. The word persecution, by the way, has an evil connotation to it in terms of oppression, torment, harm. Part of the definition is to do evil against someone. And so that comes, and it comes as we're going to see. It already comes to Stephen, it comes to James. Peter's neck is in a noose here pretty quick. And so that's what the persecution looks like. And of course, murder is involved in that, and imprisonment. And, you know, nobody learned about how to deal with prison better than Brother Paul.
Talking about meeting in their homes, about all the references we have here about the early church meetings in their homes. Gentleman from Garnett that headed up the church growth thing at Harding once said that he estimated there was at one time 50,000 Christians in Jerusalem, and most in all meeting in homes.
Yeah. Does anybody recall how long it was after Antioch did church buildings start coming into play? Did I read it was like 1,000 years or something? And so, that was the custom for the longest time was meeting in each other's home. So, you bet. So, imprisonment, we're gonna see that Peter's been in prison already in Acts the 4th chapter. He was taken away. Acts the 5th chapter, he's taken away, and he's getting ready to get hit again. So, about that time, King Herod cruelly attacked some who belonged to the church, and he killed James, John's brother, with a sword. Now, I'll also tell you, the sword was reserved for apostates and murderers. So, the fact that James was slain with a sword was a message. And also, why do you think Luke was careful to use the word cruelly? Why? What was causing so much angst amongst people? And this has been building up for a while. This has been building up for quite a while. The persecution, but what specifically was causing all the anxiety? The preaching. The Jewish people thought that they were traitors, thought that what they were doing was against the tradition, was against God's law. When it really started getting hot and heavy was when they started preaching to the Gentiles, right? Stirring up trouble. And so you have the traditions and things, but I want to tell you what really riles them up is the fact, and you see them leave Jerusalem, and now Antioch going to become really the kind of the focal point of the mission. You see, they just do not like the fact that the Christians of that day were so fervent, so fired up, so evangelistic, so hard charging, and would preach to anybody that would listen, and literally now is trying to convert the world, and key people are being converted to the faith, and that causes Herod to fear what? What would the ruler fear? Rebellion, losing control, losing all of his power. And so Herod, being the political person he is, the background of the Herods and the cruelty, it's no surprise. I don't think there's any surprise the fact that when he went at him with such vigor, and would kill him. And he had every intent on killing Peter, and we'll see that. But The other thing that strikes me in this very first verse of chapter 12, what in the world had to be going through John's mind? I got a twin brother. I'm going to assume that John and James were pretty tight, don't you think? What do you think how do you think, now again, this is just your opinion, I'm just trying to set some base here. How do you think John dealt with this? I mean, they're close. They're part of the inner circle. Now, James has been murdered, and now John's basically he's by himself. He's not without James, or he's without James now. So, I mean, I sit and contemplated that a while, and there were no answers. But I just thought about the relationship that they had, and then, of course, the relationship that they have with Jesus, and thought, well, you know, I felt bad for John. Yes.
I think, I have a twin brother.
That's right.
And I think it would just make me even more hard charged.
Probably did, didn't it? I think we're going to see that already. You bet. So, King Herod
I would have to make John kind of look and think, do I still want to be a part of this? If my brother's being killed, do I need to step back? I think I would think that.
Yeah. And we're going to see, yes. I tell you, this narrative is going to support that, because one of the things we're going to see about Peter is they used the most powerful tool they had in their quiver, the power of prayer. But I don't think there was a brother on planet Earth that thought Peter was going to get his neck out of that noose. Scripture is going to support that. And so we'll talk about that, Connie. Good comment. When he saw, verse 3, when he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter too. Now, why was that significant? Why was him nabbing Peter such a big play?
Peter was seen as the leader.
Yes, he was, wasn't he? So he's now killed James. He's killed Stephen, and now he goes right to the head, what he thinks is the head of the body, and he's going to take Peter. And again, he has every intention of murdering Peter, but he can't murder him right now. Why? Let's see. Yes. He proceeded to arrest Peter during the days of unleavened bread. And after the third arrest, and this is his third time, after the arrest, he put him in prison and assigned four guards of 4 soldiers, each to guard him. What does that mean? 4 guards made up of 4 soldiers. How many people were in charge of Peter not breaking out this time? Okay, so it's no longer 1 guard chained to him like this, right? Now it's 2 guards watching, 2 guards chained to him, and who knows? Maybe a cohort of Romans outside making sure he doesn't get away this time. I think that is significant. I want you to really draw into that and recognize the fact that they didn't want him to get away. Romans did everything right to ensure that Peter did not get away. But what did they underestimate? We'll see. That's right. They did. And it's a great story. So I would think, let's see, you got 4 guards, 4 sets up. What's that? You're on duty every 3 hours or something? Somebody do the math for me. I'm not that smart. Alex, do the math for me. 4 guards every 4. Okay, he's blanked out. All right. He's well protected, or well guarded. But it is the Pentecost, and so they can't do anything with him right now. So in verse 5, so Peter was kept in prison, but what? But prayer was made earnestly to God for him by the church. So again, the most powerful tool they have in their quiver. They're not going to use 3,000 Christians charging the prison to break Paul out like a SEAL Team 6, right? That's not what they're going to do. They're going to use the power of prayer to do this. don't know about you, brothers and sisters, but I'm getting a little fed up hearing people talk about, I don't want to hear you people pray. I want to hear y'all do something. Does that frustrate you too?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear this effeminate praying. I should be nicer than that. And I'm sorry. But I'm frustrated with people saying the best tool you have at your disposal, I'm tired of hearing you do it. I want to see you take action. I think this is the same here. I mean, people, even the church underestimated the power that prayer played in this story, and I hope we see that. But not only did they pray, they prayed what? Seriously, earnestly. What does the word earnest mean to you?
Purpose.
Earnest means to stretch, to strain. And the whole church was doing this. So what would that look like if someone come in off the street and they saw us praying earnestly? What would that look like? This was a bunch of people that were talking to God on behalf of Peter. And so earnestly to God by the church. And so I think that is important.
Excuse me, Bruce.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember when 9/11 happened, we, the church, it's somewhere else, but we got together and we prayed. I mean, we prayed earnestly.
Who remembers
For
that?
our country. And that was similar to what this.
That's not the only time this church has done that.
But we have had prayer times at all night, and I
Yes.
love those.
Yeah.
When we met and we were signed up, and all night, Ken Jefferson or someone would be here, and I came at 2 o'clock in the morning, and our church was praying, not for something particular, but 9/11, the church prayed earnestly. Our country prayed then.
You bet. And that's the church praying earnestly. You bet. Thank you, Connie. In verse 6, it says, on the night before Herod was to bring Peter out for execution, Peter was doing what? Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with 2 chains, with the sentries in the front door guarded the prison. So, can we draw anything the fact that Peter is getting ready? He knows he's going to get killed. The whole church thinks he's going to get killed. But he's sound asleep. What can we draw from that?
He was content.
Yes, he was content, wasn't he? I love that detail. I'm so glad that we got that detail, because that's what I draw from it too. Peter was at peace. Hey, hadn't he said it before? Or maybe he hadn't said it yet, but maybe, I don't know the timeline. But, if I die, good deal. I get to go be with Jesus. But if I get to keep going, I get to keep going for Jesus. So he was perfectly content. But as he's sitting there praying, again, I love the detail in this story. It says, suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and light shone in the cell. I always, whenever I see that word light, I always stop and pause and try to think about that a little bit. What light? Do you think that angel appeared with a torch in his hand and a lit torch? What do you think that was? It was the radiance of the angel, right? Providing light. What does Jesus call himself? The light. What illuminated creation before the light givers were formed? Jesus did. So I love when we see that. It says, one, the light shone in the cell. That didn't wake him up. So it says, striking Peter on the side, he now woke him up, said, get up, quick. And then the chains fell off his wrist. Then he says, get up quick, get dressed, and put on your sandals. And what? And he did. He says, wrap your cloak around you, he told them, and follow me. So he went out and followed, and he did not know that what took place through the angel was real. Do you think he was still a little groggy? So he's sleeping, just happy and content. Angel comes, kicks him in the side. First of all, turns the light on, kicks him in the side, starts screaming at him. And those of you that have been in the military, what does that remind you of? It reminds you of boot camp. Turn the light on, kick you in the bed, start screaming, get up, get up. But he does, and he thought he was seeing a vision. And in verse 10, and after they passed the first and second guard posts, they came to the iron gate that leads into the city, which opened to them by itself. That word is actually the word automatic. It opened automatically. What does that imply? It opened automatically. There's a miracle. There's a beautiful miracle that takes place. They just walking along, and all of a sudden, the gate opens. And Peter walks right out of it. And he recognizes that, what just happened. And so they went outside, and passed one street, and immediately the angel leaves. And then Peter, before we go on, let's talk about a couple things. Peter had stuff he had to do. The angel gave him some direction. Peter had to obey that direction. And I'm kind of hesitant to go down this bunny trail, but I'm going to. Is it okay, Connie? Do angels still work today in the church?
Sure they do.
Sure.
How do you know?
We've seen them.
I've had too many things happen to me that's the only thing I can come to.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. I'm always struck by Hebrews 1 and 14, and Hebrews 12 and 2, and John 1 and 51, and Genesis 28 and 12. Why would the church not pray? I mean, why would we not pray? Again, this is where I was going to talk about my irritation with the people calling Christians names, calling them effeminate. Ted, you want to pray? That's not very manly of you. It actually is very manly of us. It's actually using the most powerful tool that we have, and also thinking about this is a great narrative to think about it, but God's going to do whatever God wants to do. Is there anything too strong for God to do? There's not. But, I mean, and I think that's why we ought to always, prayer be our first line of defense against anything. And to not let this world try to tell us that that's dumb.
It just comes to mind when he talks about the chains that Peter was bound with. It says that they just fell.
Just fell off. Just fell off.
And it just makes me think that, it reminds me that any sense of security that anyone on earth thinks they have is a facade. You know, that it's only by the grace of God that, or the will of God, that anything like that, anything is secure, because the Lord can just make it fall away without effort. You know.
Yes. Amen. Now, can I say, yes, ma'am?
There's an unseen world all around us, working all the time. So of course it's got to be angels around helping their servants.
Yes, no question. I agree. Let me show you something interesting, though. Let's look at something here real quick. Verse 11, then Peter came to himself and said, now I know for certain that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's grasp and from all that the Jewish people expected. The Jewish people, the church, did not expect Peter to get his head out of this noose. Right? Why are they praying? What were they praying for? So, I guess what I'm trying to encourage us is maybe we shouldn't always beat ourselves up on these things. Because you see here, the church earnestly praying, stretching and straining, but they really didn't think Peter was going to get out of this deal. I appreciate the detail that we have here because it helps me recognize there are times when I pray and I go, well, God, I don't think you're going to do this, but have you ever done that? I don't really think you're going to make this happen, but and is that really how we should pray? Probably not, right? But that's what the church did here. That was it. That was, I need to hurry or he's never going to let me teach again. I'm supposed to get all the way through 12. He knocked into the gateway, and a servant named Rhoda came up to answer. So he goes and he says, hey, I bet the old gang's over at Mary's house. So he goes to Mary's house. He knocks on the door. Rhoda answers the door. And she recognized Peter's voice. And because of her joy, she did not open the gate and ran in and announced that Peter was standing in the gateway. So Peter's knocking on the door, and Rhoda goes, it's Peter. And just leaves poor Peter sitting there. I wonder what Peter was thinking. Guys, let me in, right? But she doesn't do that. And then the church in 15 says, you're crazy. But she kept insisting that it was true. And then they said, it is his angel. And Peter, however, keeps knocking. And when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. I'm astonished that they were astonished. Thank you for this detail, Lord, because my lack of faith, that's kind of been from the very beginning, hadn't it? Motioning to them with his hand to be silent, he explained to them how the Lord had brought him out of prison. It says, report these things to James and the brothers, he said. Then he departed and went to a different place. And at daylight, there was a great commotion among the soldiers as to what could have become of Peter. And after Herod had searched him and did not find him, he interrogated the guards and ordered their execution. I mean, what again, an illustration of an evil person. Got 16 souls that just lost it because of this story. So, and then Herod went down to Judah and Caesarea, and he stayed there. But I want to tell you, in the next section, in chapter 20, God's sovereign wrath is going to come into play. Herod's going to overstep one more time. He's going to overstep, and he's going to allow this group of people to call him God. You are a God-like figure. And God says, really? Josephus gives us a little bit of history on what happened to him. Says that for about a week, he rotted. So God had enough, didn't he? And so for a week, he rotted, and Herod is no more. So, anybody have a closing comment? Anybody? Then we'll let Kyle finish it next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Still raining? Might do that for a while.
I'm gonna go just to make sure I don't run out of minutes. I don't need that. Yeah,